everybody. It's Sam, and we're back with another episode of Pessimistic at Best. And I have my first two-time guest back on the
Hell yeah.
Hey, Adam.
I've officially passed Zoe because she was your first, but
but you're my first secondary guest.
Exactly,
Or,
which
I guess I can say that.
just means that people liked me more than Zoe.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You also live in Madison, so it's easier. But
No one has to know that.
no one has to know that. I like you more than Zoe. Did you hear that, Zoe?
I hope so. I'll tell her that too right after this.
But we're here, and we have kind of an important episode to do today and it's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time coming, and
Yeah.
I don't even know where we start.
Yeah, me neither. We're going to be discussing politics.
Politics, everyone's favorite
Conversation.
But what's so weird, this is just for me. Mm-hmm. I did not know anything about politics before probably April?
Yeah,
April
okay.
or March?
So that's something I wanted to bring up too, because, and I will say, I feel like, really this is the second presidential election we've voted in, because we're...
Yep. Yeah.
So I feel like up until then, honestly, you don't have that much of a good reason to even be politically aware. You just don't. You don't even get a say in anything. That's not to say you shouldn't have any clue, but where's the motivation? You don't get to do anything about it, so why care?
Exactly.
And now I feel like, I cared and I voted and I did everything that I thought I was supposed to do, but I didn't for me, because obviously that was the 2016 election. That was my first presidential election, and I'm assuming yours too. And so for me, that was like watching who I thought had it in the fucking bag.
Oh my God.
My girl Hillary lose to this abominable, horrible fucking man. I was like, clearly I don't know anything about politics because I don't understand how this reality TV star / insane businessman could possibly be winning our presidential election right now.
That night, I will never forget that night because it was my 21st birthday. So the election was on the 8th. My birthday's the 9th.
Oh my God, yeah.
And we were all hanging out in our living room, and it was supposed to be such a good time because midnight struck and it was my birthday.
Yes.
And we were supposed to celebrate. And I kid you not, I remember we were sitting in my living room, and it was 11:50, and that's when we got the news that there was no way she could win, and we just sat there.
Oh, I don't think I forgot it was your birthday.
It was my 21st birthday.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything worse.
It was like you said, I don't know if we were naive or if we were just younger, but it was just.
I think it was both.
I think it was definitely both, and I definitely think that it was, like you said, a reality TV star. So it's he did it, and I have to give credit where credit is given. He did it and he knew how to do it from the moment he started the campaign until he was out of office, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
He knew everything
Because he
that
could play his cards.
He had the money. He knew how to appease to people, and the ads. If you look at his presidential ads and whatnot, and how they literally look like a reality TV commercial.
And I think that that's a part of why he won in the first place.
100%.
Nobody ever, because to me, that's lowballing.
Oh.
And now politics will be that way forever because he set that precedent. But essentially, no politician ever even thought to do that before because they were just that. They were politicians first. He was a reality TV star first.
And
so
didn't want to
was-
get into it for the right reasons.
Right. He was there, for the drama straight up.
And to win.
And
He
to
just
win.
wanted the status, in my eyes, to be the
totally.
president of the United States.
He's maybe the most narcissistic person I can think of.
100%.
And that's coming from me. I think I'm also somewhat narcissistic.
I am, I think, as equally as narcissistic as you. So for us to be able to see that.
Yeah, right.
It's just, and the 4 years, it's so shocking to me because the 4 years that he was that he was the president, I think there was nothing we could do. But it was just the fact of I still didn't even care to even look into the whole I think we learn about it in high school, but you don't remember.
But that's the thing. We literally, we had one political science class.
It wasn't even political science class. It was U.S. history.
Right,
and
it was American.
And you learn what's the House, the Senate, all the, and the age you had
and
remember
and the
getting tested of the age you had to be to be governor, president. It's why do I have to know that?
And I also feel like back then too, like the way we were being taught those things, it was never really applicable to our politics. Like it wasn't really like, and now here's what you go do and you vote and here's how you get involved. It was just that. It was history. It just sounded old and foreign and like it, was in the past.
And I do think what we could say is that like a lot of shit came out from this election of just voter suppression and just like, even in this election, like, they were even saying, like, when I was looking at the results, I know you and I talked about this, the younger people still didn't even do a turnout.
Yeah.
This 2020 election should not have been as close as it was.
No. Oh, my God.
Period.
No. In my entire life, I would have not thought that it would be this
That
close.
night, I remember I just went home and I was like, I need to just be in bed. And I was texting you the whole night, just like, what is going on?
I know.
Why? And I passed out because I'm not looking at this because it was like the same feeling I was getting when he won the last time. And I was like, he won because he won. At that point, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan,
was leading in all
and I was literally like, how? How?
I stayed up because I just like couldn't even sleep. But I will say, okay, and I think that's kind of why we're sitting here talking about this today, is just because you and I feel like both are, I'm very outspoken about my political views, but I'm also very willing to admit that I still don't know what the fuck is going on because and that's the thing, the general public, and I will say there are kind of two sides to this. The general public really just doesn't know a lot about politics. Like most American citizens don't have to know a ton. And that's twofold for me because on one hand, I'm ready for politics to be boring again. I miss when it was just a politician, and even if they were Republican, Democratic, whatever it is, the party alignments didn't have to matter that much because at the end of the day, they're the president first or whatever, seat they're holding, and they're just going to do their job.
They're going to do their job to the best that they feel like to run this country,
and
even the way they talk.
Try to reach both sides regardless. Like that's what has been done in the past forever. and this was the first time that wasn't the case.
I don't even think we could say forever because I think our political stance changed once Obama was elected president.
Yeah, I agree.
Because people still don't think he's a citizen. People he
was so controversial, and literally just because he's a black man.
A black man to be the president of the United States.
Which is horrible.
Who had already served in the Senate, who'd already been, it's just
who had such a becoming reputation, and then instead we elect a reality TV star, but we don't see any problem with his reputation.
It's just like, I didn't understand because like people would just like, oh yeah, I'm guilty of this. I would just be like, I love Obama. I pretty much up until recently couldn't tell you any policy or anything that he did. Yeah. And like a lot of the time you'd hear, oh, Obama did nothing. You're thinking like, oh yeah. But then looking into it and like what I learned now is just like,
no one would let him.
We didn't have the control.
Yeah.
It's just like in your head, you think the president of the United States, they have all the control. Mm-hmm. What I learned from this year, just because it was I was like, who's Mitch McConnell? Who's Nancy Pelosi? what are their roles and what is going on? And
we're
realizing
so much about them.
That like, because literally before this, I thought Congress, the Senate, and the House of Representatives were all different. But I was like, okay, the House and the Senate is Congress, and they have all the power.
Yes.
And it's not even them; it's who is ever in the majority. Mm-hmm. So if it's a Republican or the Democrat, so like when Obama, it was I think his second term is when the Republicans took, the Senate or. The Congress does every 2 years. So I guess I think at some point they got into control. And Mitch McConnell came out. There's interviews where he's saying, I'm blocking every single thing can't even get a vote on the floor.
Yeah.
And the only other way to get that passed is what reconciliation, which might have to do now, but you have to be in power.
I know. Well, and to me, that's why so many of our systems are so backwards. Like here we think we have this amazing political structure in America. We're a free country. We have all this voting power. It's really not true. Mm-mm. It's just not.
No.
And granted, every political system has its kinks for sure. But 100%. Like ours, it's so...
I think the issue is that we pride ourselves on that it's so good when it's not.
Which we do that. As Americans, we're really good about doing that about everything.
Everything. Yeah. Like we're the best when we're not.
No, we're not. And what a weird mentality to have. Like you should always be working to improve. What benefit do you get by waving a flag and be like, woo, we're the best? That's like this. That's so dumb.
I don't understand it.
So stupid to me.
It's like, and I'm curious because like for me, how I learned all about politics. I literally just every morning I listen to NPR, the
Yes.
NPR politics every morning for
They have a great podcast.
insane.
Yeah.
I never listened to podcasts before that, but I would just like, I was like, I need to understand what is going on because I'm so confused with everything.
Okay, I will say, starting out, I feel like they do use a lot of political jargon that's hard to understand. But the more you listen to them, the easier it is. And I could even recommend some others. There's like the Betches Sup podcast I really like because she talks to you like you and I are talking. Sometimes
nice.
she'll swear, sometimes. But I will say, and not in the way that's like overdone or tacky or annoying. Like she's not trying too hard to be cool. She's just telling you like it is.
Exactly.
Which I like. And NPR is a little bit more professional, so I feel like they get into more of the minute details, but
I think I needed that because it was more of like I could follow along and be like, okay, this is happening, and they would almost explain it. But
the Daily has a good one too.
I listen to the Daily now, but yeah, I was like, where do I start? And and like for me and like you and I are very different, I think, from a lot of like we know where we stand, we know our views, and but there's so many people, and I think I find it so interesting to listen to Fox, to listen to the other side, because it's like I need to know the whole spectrum before it's just like, because it almost makes sense then. And I have so many friends that are like, oh, Trump supporter, oh, fuck you, like I don't want to talk to you, but I'm very curious to why. And like I don't know, I think it's very different for me. It's just like I do think, but it's also a fault too, because it's also like I feel like you excuse some things, but it's also like I'm so curious because we are the way that we are because of the way we were raised. And I think that's a very, 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 very big point to put, because so I went to lacrosse my freshman year, and this guy like came out and like we were just like A-barring at an apartment, and we were just having a conversation, and all of, obviously, you know, like our friends are very liberal, and he was coming out as just being like, I'm a huge conservative, I'm a huge Trump fan, like I don't understand any of this stuff, and you could either fuck you, get out, I don't want to see you again. But he sat and listened, and when we're drunk, we're like, you need to take the sociology class, you need to do this, not thinking that he actually would.
Oh, I remember this story.
He took it.
Yeah.
And I came back the year to visit my friends, and we met up again, and he literally was like, my whole views have changed. Yeah. He's from the smallest town in Wisconsin where all of his friends, his family, were like criticizing him on Facebook and like pretty much disowning him.
Yeah.
But he was just like, my mind was just changed. So cool. And I don't know why, just that one person changing is amazing.
And that's how it should be. I will say, that's something I think I could work on, honestly. Like I get so defensive, and I have a hard time watching Fox News because it infuriates me.
You should, now that I live alone, it's different, but like when I lived with my roommate Mitchell, he would just like hear me just scream at I still do that.
Yeah.
But it almost,
no one hears
for me,
you.
it almost like makes me feel better, because it's like,
well, it also, in a lot of ways, it actually does validate every view and feeling that I currently
100%. hold
and have, because I feel like I'm sitting there being like, yeah, how could anyone buy this bullshit?
Honestly, and then I also think, because like I said, my mom's side, there's still some very conservative people that
my family's like that too.
Exactly. We relate on that, but that's what they know. Like that's all they know, and that's all they see. They're not willing to go, and that's on them. They're not willing to go out and see that.
I think that's so true for
and
everyone.
I'm not trying to excuse it, because like I said, it's ultimately on them to not go and like to learn more. But being sheltered,
I know.
And like I remember listening to Trump's speeches and all of that stuff, and it was like, if that's all that I'm listening to and looking at,
I know.
I'm gonna believe it.
Oh, well, that's such a thing that I hate about him as a person.
Which he did.
He's such a and he talks himself in circles, but because and he's so trained to do that, to not actually make any fucking points. No actual points were made during the entire speech, but yet he sounds convincing, and he gets you riled up. He's fear-mongering.
Fear-based, and that is the biggest thing. It's his whole campaign was
for 4 years.
Was fear that Mexicans were rapists, that illegals were coming in and stealing jobs, that the black thugs were the ones that were, and so it's all stuff that's like, oh shit, if I'm someone in a small town that, you know, is not open to that, I'm gonna believe that.
Yes. And if you identify with him in any way, if you're like a white person, period,
which I think I'm not excusing that, because I don't agree with anything, but that's my biggest point of just where I'm gonna try once.
Yeah.
I'm gonna explain my point of view. If you're open to learning more, great. But if you dismiss it, that's where I'm gonna go in and just
Then we tried, and now it's done.
And now it's, you're wrong, you suck. Yeah. The amount of, Samantha knows this, I had to delete my Facebook that I had since I was like 10 to get a new one, just because I was getting into so many.
You and I were both doing
Oh
this.
my God, you and I were and it wasn't
hate
even
that about myself.
It was not even just like little ones. We were going on day-long fights. Mitchell
With
literally looked at
strangers.
me because he would come out and I would be fuming, just typing on my
Me too.
computer.
I think
just
I was
screaming.
in kind of a dark place during
Oh,
that.
for sure.
Because I was like, James would come out and be like, "Do you need water? Like, can I get you something?" And I would just be on my phone typing madness. Like,
I would go between my phone to my computer, slam it down, go back, and she'll be like, "You need to chill out."
James is the same way, and it's so funny too because looking back on it, honestly, these could have just been. I mean, the people were probably. This was probably so purposeful. There are so many trolls out there. People just egg you on for no reason on the internet. Like, why did I even allow myself to be sucked into that? I do not know.
What I need to remember too is you're never gonna get
You're
your
not
point
fixing
across
anything.
online.
Yeah.
You have to have a conversation like
with someone
this in person where you can hear and but it was just
I just like needed to do something.
I remember, and Lauren, our friend Lauren, would send because what I also
Yeah, because
learned.
you can get seen.
Oh,
People can
she
see your
saw the fights and would screenshot my responses, which and I made it a point to because there would be times where I was like, just like, fuck you, delete it.
Yep.
I would try to be like the most like level-headed,
too.
come with facts and whatnot,
Yes,
but then
me
they'd
too.
be like,
I would cite my sources,
oh, and
all
then
that shit.
I had one lady one time cite Wikipedia to me, and that so I couldn't. That was one of the time where, and I remember I was like, I just need to get off because
I know.
but.
It's soul sucking. It's so bad.
I was explaining to someone too that because like I had this friend and I was asking, I was like, what are you? It's probably not the best question to ask someone. What are your views on politics? It's like, and they were like, I don't really care. I just vote.
I know a lot of people like that.
And like, but do you remember like when this whole time is like just vote? Mm-hmm. For me, I almost got more angry hearing like because they voted for Trump.
Yep.
Because it was like their backstory, like their family, small town, came from like a town of like 1,500.
Yep.
You know, and like Madison's the biggest city that they've been in. So it's like they're getting it now, but it was just like, if you don't know that, and that's what we did. Mm-hmm. Our parents, why do you think like...
I know.
Like back in like, we're Obama supported just because our parents
were. 100%.
So I get it.
Yeah.
But it almost made me so much more angry because it was like, you voted.
I know.
But you don't know the importance.
Because to me, yeah, people who sit there and say like, oh, I don't really have a lot of political opinions, but I do vote. It's kind of like, well, then why are you voting?
But then it's also like the other hand where you and I were like, I'm a huge you vote. I don't like just go out and vote. Go because I vote for.
And you should. You need to.
Yes.
You need to exercise that right.
But I would encourage people that when you do that,
do some research.
And for me, it was like I think that you and I will say you and I are probably the most
politically vocal, maybe,
and
or like
aware and maybe educated, most politically educated out of our friend group,
which is also not really a great thing. I wouldn't say we're just learning.
Oh, and that's what I was saying. I don't know jack shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know the bare minimum just to get a consensus of like the
to
Senate,
formulate...
like the bills go through the House, which is like,
yes.
Okay. So my biggest thing is like, this is really bad. Any Office fans where Angela is dating the Congress or the Senate, and Oscar's always like state senator, and I was like, okay, well, what the fuck's the difference between a state senator and a U.S. senator? Well, obviously he's in Congress and the House of Representatives versus like you have to get elected to the state rep. So I was like stuff like that of just like where you have to put bills into the House, then get it passed to the Senate. And well, as you know, the Democrats were in control of the House. So they'd pass shit to the Senate. But Mitch McConnell, who was the Senate majority leader, because the Republicans had the majority, blocked it. He wouldn't even
let it go to vote.
I think the biggest thing, and I will say this is definitely selfish of me, and the biggest reason is why I really learned it is because I was directly affected by it finally. Because I was furloughed. I wasn't like once the packages, and I was really like curious, but after that, because like if you look at the news, it's like, oh, Democrats are blocking this, Republicans are blocking this. If you really look at it, the Republicans blocked the whole time of getting stimulus out to people.
Yep.
Of just like and so was just mind blowing.
Okay, it's so interesting that you bring that up because I will say I kind of feel the same. Like this presidency was the first time I felt anything. You know, like I feel I have a lot of empathy for other people, and I actually do. Like
exactly.
I think I'm an empathetic person, but it's so I can see when things are wrong. I think that's why I vote Democrat. Period.
Exactly.
But this was the first time where I felt directly affected. I was furloughed. I also saw a lot of, women's rights that I wholeheartedly
Yes.
believe in being taken and stripped away. And I was just like, wow,
The Black
like
Lives
this
Matter
shit
movement, everything.
can really go so backwards so quickly. Like I was like, there is no way we're actually going to go back in time to not being allowing birth control and abortion and all of these things that are, some hot-headed topics that we discuss all the time. But I was like, there's no way we'll actually lose those rights. And we were.
We were. And that's, I think it was so shocking to me. Just like for me, and I'm very guilty of this in the 2016 election or even in the 2 years election, because I would still vote.
Yeah, right.
Democratic. I didn't look at who was up on the ballot. I didn't look at their stances or anything of just like what was going on, because look at where we are now. Our majority in the Senate is 50-50. And the only way we have the majority is because we won the White House. So the VP takes it. So say Trump won, Republicans would be in the majority.
Yep.
So like for me, I was like, that one person getting elected has the whole power now to pass the bills that we need to everything. And I think what I didn't realize of how rich politicians are.
I know.
And that's why they're doing it.
Which
It's
is
money.
pretty fucked up, because really politicians, people who are they're public servants. They're
You got elected to this.
Yes, you can't be in it for the money, but they are.
They are. And it's
Another
both
reason I don't
sides.
like
It is
Republicans.
both sides though. It is
But yeah,
both
that's
sides
true.
where
That's
it's just
true.
like you're
That's
getting
true.
endorsements from all these big companies, and that's a lot of the time of just like they're the voice. The big companies are telling no, don't do this bill because that's affect the tax breaks and
Oh my
everything.
God, that like hurts my brain, because it's so. That's the thing. We're so backwards as a country. Capitalism matters so much. People who have money hold so much power, and it's so fucked up.
And you and I had this conversation, and I don't know if a lot of people agree with this, because within the parties, like there's definitely like moderate Democrats and why can't I think of it?
Socialists.
Socialists, yeah,
Yes.
social, and then so like obviously like the AOC versus like the Biden.
Yes.
We were saying, I only thought of this like a couple weeks ago. I really don't think any other Democratic candidate might have won against Donald Trump.
Yeah, so I'm excited to talk about this because I have a lot of opinions on this. And obviously, it's even funny because, we could have done this podcast a bit ago, but I didn't even want to do it until Biden was inaugurated. I didn't want to do any of this. I didn't even want to give Trump any more of my thought, my time, any of it. I couldn't stand to talk about that stupid man any longer. And now we have a new president and things just feel more hopeful. But Biden wasn't my first choice. He wasn't my second, my third.
No.
I didn't vote for him. But looking back on it, yeah, I agree. And I see why people, so many people are like, this isn't good enough. I'm not happy that he's the president. And to a certain extent, I feel the same way.
100%.
I understand. I don't think that we're being as progressive as we could be. And I hear all of the, the women and survivors who are like, we traded one rapist for another. Yeah, that fucking sucks. All of those things are so true. But I do agree, just with the current voting population.
That's it. It's the population. It was because
it could not
I
have
watched
not been him.
So many interviews of the moderate Democrats
Yes.
that are still very scared of
Socialism?
Socialism. Yeah, God, I can't think of it. Of socialism, because
Yeah.
it's a scary word, but if you break it down and think of it, look, socialism is not
and
democratic
people
socialism
have
is
been
different
made to be scared of it.
because of the fear tactic we were
Yeah.
talking about before. But if you look at legalization of marijuana, $15 an hour minimum wage. Look, that's Montana.
And
That's a red state.
And those things should have been happening long ago. Those are the bare minimum of what this should be. And I like the way AOC describes it. I think I watched an interview with her and she said, in its most basic form, socialism should just mean that every single person has the right to a roof over their head,
Oh my
an
God.
education, food, just the most basic human rights.
To kind of skew off this, but not mainly. It's just I watched this interview of just it's also how fucked up our system is in almost every country, in any rich country. So an example for China, and how they have a terrible air population thing. But when the Beijing Olympics were a thing, they brought in
Yes.
ventilators to
Yes.
clear the
Yep.
air.
So fucked up.
And now that the Olympics are going to come into LA, I watched this interview of now the biggest thing is how do we tackle homelessness? But only
Yes, because they don't want it to look like
They
a
don't-
shit place. But
exactly.
they don't actually care about the people.
No.
What kind of a fucked up
No.
thing is that?
that's
For
so
the bullshit
fucked up.
Olympics? Who cares? Do this because people are homeless. Do this
Exactly.
because the air quality is shit.
Exactly. So it's what we were saying is people are scared of socialism, but once you like, oh wait, that's not that bad.
And if it's so easy to actually fix those things, if you can do it really quick before the Olympics fucking come, then you can do it, period.
Exactly.
Like, we should just be doing it. And hello, that's why we pay things like taxes.
Oh my God,
why isn't our
yeah.
tax money going to that type of shit? Yes, I want to contribute to that stuff. Like, I'm down to pay taxes. You're not getting robbed, you motherfuckers. You're paying for lifting everyone up, okay?
Exactly.
That's what you're doing.
And it's such more of a thing of just like where that's the socialism is so scary, but then that's when we were saying like I really
like how could you not want those things?
That's what I'm saying, but it's so scary because it's like, and it's human and I shouldn't even say human nature. It's American culture that you need to stay ahead, and that if people are ahead of you, you're failing. Exactly.
I saw, I think it was just like some stupid little meme or something, but it was like American people love to say, you got to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps to people who don't even have boots.
Honestly.
Like, what the fuck? And that's so true. Like, it's just like you can't sit there and say these things when people don't even have the means to do it themselves. Like, it's like, how can you even ask that of somebody? And why wouldn't we want everyone to succeed?
Like, I just watched this interview. I forget. It was like a Republican senator from, I think, Ohio. And we can get into this. I think this is a good segue to get into this. Is just like for the economic plans and whatnot.
Yeah.
And obviously $1.9 trillion is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, that's
I can't
no
even
one,
fathom. Yeah.
no one is saying that's not a lot of money and
Yeah.
that we're going into a deficit. One, we're also in a global pandemic.
Uh-huh.
Two, I just learned this. Trump last year or a couple of years ago did a $2 trillion tax cut to the wealthiest
Yes.
people, but the Republicans they're losing that was a $2 trillion deficit that we went into. But for this,
For a tax cut.
And now for people that, and like I said, I'm very
We're
aware
living
of
through
this.
a pandemic.
A pandemic, they can't get relief.
Yeah.
Like it was like for me, it was just like even state by state. I think like for me, because I had never done unemployment before or whatnot.
Yeah, me neither.
Just realizing like Wisconsin, like say like I worked. The max that you can ever get is $370.
Mm-hmm.
That's if you worked full time. And that's what I mean. Before the pandemic, that's what I was working, so that's what I got. But that's all you get.
I know.
$370 a week after you were making $8 to $1,000.
And the amount of work you have to. Okay, granted, we didn't have to do as much because yes, we're in a global pandemic. I think they understood, but the amount of work you have to do is insane. You have to be applying to an absolutely ridiculous amount of jobs. You have to be doing so much just to prove that you are worthy of this $370 a month or a week that you can't even hardly live off of.
And like now it's different. Like I mean, it was like they obviously helped a lot of people. You don't have to do the work search. You don't have to do anything like that. But like people, the senator was like, why are we spending money on unemployment again? 1 million people filed for unemployment last week.
That's
1
so
million.
crazy.
And him, who's
breaks my
probably
heart.
who makes over 6 figures, is asking why do we need to give?
I know.
And like I
such a
said,
slap in the face.
it's not something that I think should go on forever. But like I'm in the restaurant business, that's not coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not coming back for at least a year. I'm fortunate enough, obviously, to have other opportunities to do stuff, but there are people that's their livelihood.
I mean,
and that
I
have
even got
families.
furloughed. I was a marketing job, but our business just wasn't doing well. So
But
what do you
it's
stop?
hospitality,
What do you cut?
it's
Marketing.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it's like people that like they don't understand. It's just like, and I had so many people that like will go out and find a job. There's requirements where it's just like if I make a certain amount of money or work a certain amount of hours, I don't qualify. If I quit if I
Exactly.
quit Dottie's or my job that I have, I don't get that unemployment.
Yep.
If I quit and I found another serving job that's great, in 2 weeks they could go down and I could be let go because I'm the newest employee.
Yeah.
Then I'm SOL. I don't even get unemployment. So it's like a factor of just like, I'm never saying that government should keep giving people money.
know.
We're in a global pandemic.
That's what I'm saying. And this is the reason we pay taxes. We pay taxes so that when shit hits the fucking fan, the government has a bunch of money that we've been putting away for months, for years, as working adult human beings, so that the government can fucking help us out.
That's what I'm saying. And I was explaining because my roommate before, and like I understand everyone's like, what the fuck? Why are you adding in a dish? Why is this person getting X amount of money a week for not working? One, I just explained the whole not work. It's not. I don't want. Like, I love working. I've had and I explained this to.
Very few people are trying to like freeload off this shit.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the amount of people where it's just like, I would love to go work. It's like not fun just sitting at home. And
on top of that, the amount of work it would take to freeload off of something like this is absolutely insane.
And like I think that's what people aren't understanding. It's like I don't want this forever. And like for me, it was a nice break. The COVID thing I haven't had more than I think 5 days off in a row since I was 16.
Yeah, that's
up until
so
this pandemic.
Crazy. You are
so
a
it's like,
workaholic.
but that's what I'm saying. There's so many other, and I'm not even just saying, but there's so many people that work like that. They deserve to be helped out by the government.
Yes.
For this during a pandemic.
Yeah. And like, sure, yes, you don't get to live for free, all this bullshit. But at the same time, look how much money our government actually has. Look at all the big companies we're bailing out and all the other shit that we're doing that doesn't matter.
What is crazy of just like how Amazon has made more money during this pandemic.
So bad.
And or what was it that Jeff Bezos could give the amount of money that he made in this pandemic to everyone and to live like what I think it was like comfortably or something like that and still make as much as he did last year.
Yeah, that's
where it's fucked. And I think that's where it makes me the most mad, where it's just like, and it's not even just me, it's grocery store workers, nurses, everyone that has to work during this fucking pandemic. Why are we not taking care of them versus the people that are making money off of this pandemic?
And we could probably do a whole episode on just this, although I would have to probably go and get a lot more education before I speak on this. But like, I don't know, how are there not governmental, how are we not capping shit like that?
Because they're making money off of it. And that's the biggest thing. And like, I'm not just blaming, it's Democrats and Republicans on both sides that are making money from big companies. And that's why they make the decisions that they do.
Yeah.
And it's fucked.
Yep.
And the influence that they have, and it's not even big. Like, look at now, Trump. He has such an influence on the Republican Party. He's not even president anymore.
I know.
But honestly, and I will say this, I wholeheartedly do hope that, because there's talks that he's trying to make a whole nother party, which would ruin the Republican Party.
Yeah, it would.
And Democrats would hopefully stay in power.
The thing, like, go ahead.
Please.
Let's see that
happen.
happen.
But what's so crazy is like Kevin McCarthy, the minority leader in the House, is having meetings with Trump but is out here saying, and like,
I know.
We can get into the impeachment or whatnot of just like how stop impeaching them. So two-faced. Where he's like, don't impeach, let's unify.
Well, and that's what's so funny leading up to this election is you had so many people who quite literally stood by his side until the very end. You had people who bailed out, who eventually sat there and were like, you know what, we can't even sit there and put up this sham anymore because it's getting out of hand. This is just getting ridiculous. But there were some people who literally stuck by his side until the very end. And now they're in hot water because...
But see, not even, and that's what I thought too, but this week, so like we were going to record this podcast last week, but I was like, let's wait and see. I really wanted to see how stuff played out because...
I'm glad we did wait.
I'm glad because like Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, all like denounced Trump when he lost. But now, because the biggest thing is, like we said, the House and the Senate every 2 years is an election. 7 million people still voted for Trump. Those people are still diehard Trump fans. So now what the Republican Party is trying to do is stay on Trump's side so they get reelected in 2022. And that's their whole thing. And it's like... You can't call. I don't understand.
Don't believe that will work in any.
You don't?
I don't. But I had some of these same feelings about the 2016 election.
I will say that because I was very. I've learned I don't like getting my hopes up again. So I'm very, and you know this. I will say this isn't happening, and I'd rather have my hopes, or like be surprised and have my hopes let down. But just looking out,
I know
Trump has such a foothold in, and I shouldn't say the Republican Party because it's not really anymore. And like,
it's beyond that. It is something completely different.
It's not Democratic and Republican. It's
I have Republicans I can relate to. Well,
same. I'm not even okay. Yeah. I mean, you can at least understand and empathize to a point. Like Mitt Romney.
Sure, exactly. Yes.
Came out against Trump, but you know what's so funny? Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, who else? Oh, Marco Rubio. We're all trying to run to be the Republican nominee against Trump. I went back and I watched interviews of what they said about Trump.
Totally. Crazy.
And now they're up his asshole, like where I can't even see their feet. Like, it's just like, it's so... The amount of power that he has. I mean, I'm just hoping that things settle down.
Is it him? Because it's not. I think people just see him as this like little dummy that they can.
But he's the voice. Yeah, that's it. They know that
because he's not actually politically smart.
No,
people are playing him like a little puppet.
He had no. If we look, and every
he makes
time,
an ass of himself every second he gets.
Just his fucking interviews or his press conferences or anything. The moment. It was the day of the insurrection.
Yeah. Oh my
God. And when Biden came on, what? He wasn't even inaugurated yet.
No.
It was before the inauguration.
Yes.
And how he came out before on live TV, not a fucking pre-recorded video. I felt calm.
Yeah, me too.
There's a sense of, and I will say this, it's not just Democratic versus Republican. George W. Bush, when he speaks,
Calm. That's what I'm saying. Politics used to be boring, and not even in a bad way. They just used to be so... Just that, politics. These are public servants working for you, and you can listen to them, but shit doesn't hit the fan. It's never gonna go absolutely berserk the way it has the last 4 years. You could just you could feel comfortable knowing that things are just being handled. Nothing's going crazy. We're not gonna be, I don't know, and
I think and I say we, as in everyone that's not a Trump supporter, will understand is now that Biden's elected, I love the memes that are like, we're not going to have T-shirts, we're not going to have flags.
That's what I'm
we're
saying.
still holding them accountable.
Yes. I'm not sitting here being like, I'm Biden's biggest fucking fan. I'm going to kiss his fucking ass. I'm not. Frankly,
No.
I'm literally not.
No.
And it's not a fandom. It's not.
No, it was so crazy seeing the interact, because I was literally watching the news and I watched it happen. Where just it's so funny to hear not funny, but it's the similarities between a cult group, a white supremacist, of anything.
Yes.
It's what Trump is doing is the first step of a dictatorship.
Yes, it is, which is so scary because you are in here. We think we're in America. We are so far past that.
No.
That could never happen here. You know what? It almost fucking did. And that insurrection day was so scary because, and honestly got scarier even a few days after as you learned more and more about what was happening in there, about the fact that people were going in there with fucking zip ties. Those people were going to take hostages. Those people
they were planning
bad intentions
to kidnap. And look at what happened in Michigan.
Let in.
In Michigan this year.
And Michigan as well. Let in.
The fucking to plot to kill and assassinate a governor because I now try to stop myself from talking about it because I get on, but I guess it's the time. But just stop COVID time. When she was doing it and that's what
just because she was politically outspoken against Trump.
That's what I'm saying. And luckily she was lucky enough to have Michigan Supreme Court that was Democrat. Wisconsin, we couldn't do that, obviously.
Yep.
And I think what I don't understand, and anyone, please DM me on Instagram, DM Samantha or whatnot. I'm very curious to know. When I was in this the beginning of this pandemic, I did not agree with shutting business down. I mean, I understood why. I didn't think it was going to be the best, obviously, because you're going to go into a recession. But I understood why it needed to be done because we were in a global pandemic. And the people that were like, well, let's just keep it open. Why not? Let's close everything down, and then the government can be responsible for every other.
That's what I'm saying, and it should be that way. They should hold up the businesses, and then they should support the people.
Exactly.
We have the money to do it.
Exactly.
And it shouldn't. And that's okay. I have so much to say about that because obviously I experienced that in my own workplace, and I saw how hard it was on my boss, my employees, all of that. But it shouldn't be on the boss.
That's what I'm saying.
Because then we wouldn't even have these rifts in the workplace. It shouldn't be on them because they shouldn't have to be worrying about supporting themselves and their employees because the government should be doing that, and then everyone can be closed and we can all be safe.
And that's the thing. And it's not I feel like what people were like, well, why is the government the bottom line, we're in a global pandemic.
Yes.
A global pandemic. And it was more of and I think I could be mistaken just from what I was looking at in a lot of the interviews of just the Trump supporters that were small business owners, and they were like, we need to stay open to survive. I understand that. I 100% understand that because it's your job, but
that's the thing. You shouldn't have to because the government should help you.
That's where it was just
that's where that's where it, to me, I don't even understand how you can then even still, but they can't see, they don't get that.
No.
And they agree, or I don't know,
Maybe it's a pride thing of just not wanting help. But I mean, the bottom line of any argument that I feel should just drop mic, walk away, end a conversation. We're in a global pandemic.
I know.
It's not even a pandemic in the United States.
That should have almost united us.
Well, you would think. You would. And I think it did. But honestly, a lot of I will say that it was the issue of the administration.
Yes. Okay, I think so too.
Totally. And
there were so many mixed messages.
Is it real? Is it not? And
and honestly, people like Trump and his party and everyone who was working for him were basically encouraging those business owners because they wanted them to be like, no, we want to stay open, aka so they didn't have to fucking pay them out.
And then it's really then they're politicizing it.
Yes.
And that's the thing, and it's so
and
funny.
It worked.
It's so funny.
Worked.
I listened to an interview that Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci did.
Yep.
And Dr. Fauci obviously is still in Biden's administration, but Dr. Birx isn't. And she flat out said, we were told not to talk about real scientific I think the biggest clapback that I ever had on someone was, when did we start questioning science?
I know. Science is fact.
Or the people that
Like,
are out here saying that COVID's not real. Are you an immunologist?
That's
Are
what I'm
you
saying.
like are you a virologist? Like what are like are,
I know. And
when-
the answer is no. And these are some of, like, for the most part.
and it's
okay.
like I don't come in talking to an accountant and saying, "Oh, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong." I don't know jack shit about that.
I have a hot take. Actually, I don't know what kind of take this is because, okay, this is going to be maybe somewhat controversial.
Love it.
But
Love the controversies.
Because, okay, so we sit there and we see these people who don't believe in coronavirus or who don't believe scientists or who
Anti-maskers,
don't, we're questioning science all of a sudden. We're questioning fact. And then we sit there and we say, okay, these are some of the most uneducated people, and that's problematic. And that also just goes
Such
to show,
problematic.
why people with higher education lean Democratic. And then that is an elitist thing to say. And I understand where that is coming from, but like it is. But that is also why I 100% back socialism, because everyone deserves the right to an education.
Honestly.
And if everyone had the exact same upbringing and everyone had the exact same, I don't know, like if we were all, if
everyone was given equal opportunity from the start, because honestly, education
It's
is
so important.
It starts with preschool.
Yes.
I don't think people understand that.
It's
it
your
starts
baseline.
It's preschool. Preschool teaches you social cues. And then from there, you build off
Yes,
of that.
you
And
just
like
continue.
you said, we are so fortunate, and there's so many people out there that did not have the opportunities
Yeah.
that we did. And that is ultimately why we are here sitting, being able to talk about
Yes,
this.
literally.
And that's my whole other point of just like why I always try to go into it firsthand of just like, I want to see your side. I want to explain my side.
Yeah.
Just because people do not have those
No.
resources. And it's so unfortunate.
it is.
So unfortunate.
Okay, something else we should talk about, though, is just because a new leaf has been turned, we have a new president. Sure, he might not have been our first pick. I understand why a lot of people are still pissed. I'm choosing personally to be hopeful.
I know.
I have to. First of all, I just literally have to. For my own mental well-being, I just have to feel fucking good about something for once in terms of politics. These last 4 years have been... I don't know why. I know some people didn't even feel that affected. I didn't have to, but I felt such a heavy weight, and it's been lifted. And yeah, sure, he's old. He has some issues. He doesn't agree with everything I believe in.
But see, that's why I think he's the bridge, because
Yep.
he's still able to relate to both the whole
Right.
Democratic Party, but
and even maybe a couple of the
100%
Republicans who don't
because
like Trump.
he was in the Senate for so long and worked with them.
Yeah.
So it's like this was the bridge because
and because he is also just so in the middle. He's really like a
moderate Democrat.
Yeah.
And so he can put small bills, like I said, legalization of marijuana, higher minimum wage, healthcare, and then when people say, "Oh, realize that's not so bad," then next
now we can move on to the next
election,
step.
it's not going to be scary when
Yes.
an AOC or a Bernie runs, and
Yeah.
then the younger generation, then it'll hopefully that I'm saying it's an acceleration.
I know. I think it had to happen.
Because I kid you, I really, even looking at my grandma, my dad, or whatever, I don't think they could have gotten behind Bernie.
I know.
And then they would have
Even my
voted,
mom.
and
Yeah. and like my
Trump would have
parents are
won.
very-
Yeah. And that's why I say what I say, just because of how close. If it was a landslide, we couldn't have said it. But for how marginally close this election
Yep.
was, and that just shows. And Biden had so much
Exactly,
support.
because if it had been anyone else who happened to get the Democratic nomination, I think he would have taken the lead. And I'm just
And Trump could have used. He did obviously attack Biden over health stuff, age stuff. That's not. But he couldn't have attacked him in the way that he
over
could
his
attack a
policies.
Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
Even
Because they
Elizabeth
weren't even-
Warren.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just like, those are like where he could have gotten more fear based into that, where
And it would have worked.
would have worked, because he's great at that. That Biden is hopefully the bridge that we just need to keep. Like you said, I need to be more positive, but like for me, I've just learned I hate
Yeah.
being let down.
Yeah. It
So-
does suck. It's a bad feeling.
And especially I was just this, I remember, because going back to like this past stimulus, what irritates me the most is the first package ended July 31st. Mm-hmm. They were supposed to pass something, but because the Republicans said, no, it's not, they didn't pass anything until what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, straight
I mean,
up.
not even, that wasn't even a relief. That was an emergency thing that they had to do before the year ended. They haven't even passed a
also,
new.
$600, that looks so sad in my bank account, let me just tell you.
When you're 4 months behind rent
Yeah.
and you have 10 grand in credit card bills because you had no other
Straight
income.
up.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's not feasible. And so it's like now I went all of August, all of September, all of October, all of November, pretty much all of December, because we were told by both sides, Republican and Democrat, that whatever got passed, it'll just be retroactive. So I was like, okay, cool. I have to look forward to something. That's not happening
It's
now.
not.
They have to then
It's
back pay
not.
5 months of
I
a million
know.
people. So that now I got screwed out of that 5 months, and we're not even passing anything.
I know.
And it's like,
I know.
how in what world is that okay?
I know.
And can anyone excuse people living in the poverty right
I
now?
know.
I think, and like we went back to it, it's a very big money thing, and it's well, I mean, America is just money.
It is.
If you're
It's
so
rich,
you're
based.
successful.
That's all that matters. Woohoo, yeah. Okay, well, something else I want to discuss, because like I said, all of these things are true at the same time. I understand why it's not enough for so many people. Biden, Kamala Harris as well. I get it. I so get it. For me personally, I have to choose to just be feeling good about it, because that's what I need to do for my own mental well-being.
Yes.
But I recently saw some things, and like I see where these people are coming from. People don't like Kamala, people don't like Biden, and like, you know, I saw somebody say specifically about Kamala Harris, like the representation, it's not enough, it doesn't actually matter.
I saw that.
I will say, you know what, if that's your truth, I get why that's not enough for you, but for me as a woman, that representation means everything to me.
And it's the great saying of just like, it's not the last.
It's not the
But
it's the very first.
And that's what I think just needs to have. It's like it just brings. I saw like a graph that someone made of just like women that have been in the cabinet or just like appointed high positions in the administration, women and people of color. Biden has surpassed
All of it.
but it's not even that. It's still like 48%.
I know.
51%, and I'm like, that's the best. That's the best that we can do. So yes, this Kamala being the first Black Southeast Asian woman not even president.
I know.
Vice president of the United States
know.
is insane. How
I just saw that because her husband is now referred to as the
second gentleman.
that literally just got added to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Like it just got added as a legitimate
Which means
term.
that the first gentleman hasn't even been because
not
it's
in
not
there.
a thing.
It's not in there.
And why people are so opposed to that.
I know.
But it also, I mean, and I do think that this election we talk about, I feel like it could be a segue. We should do it like a social issue one. Because I do think that this election and not even Trump's presidency brought out the clear divide of like where people
totally
where people stand and what their beliefs are.
I will say, I don't think anything good came out of this presidency. Like, I stand by that. But at the same time, I will say, I feel like so many undercover racists have been brought to the fucking daylight.
100%.
And in addition to that, not that I think it's a good thing, because I think it's so sad that we had to come to this for any of this to matter, or for it to become such a, like, not to matter. Well, yes, to some
matter.
people to matter.
100%
but
to
like,
matter.
if you look at like the Black Lives Matter movement, just the amount of like momentum that these things have now, straight up, that probably wouldn't have happened if it weren't for this awful fucking man totally trying to derail all of the progress we've made so far. And I think it's both really sad that it had to get here for this to happen, and really powerful and exciting that it did happen, and now we're progressing forward.
I think where we differ is you look into the future optimistically.
Yeah.
I don't.
See, isn't that interesting though? Because I'm a pessimist.
Exactly.
I am, but I think I
You
more
have
have to do
hope.
that now. I have to. I have felt so hopeless the last 4 years that I just like literally have
And
to.
see, for me, it's different. Is I look back at the Trump presidency as the half glass full, where I'm just like, you know what? I'm glad, like you said, I'm glad that happened, because something needed to change, and that was their turning point.
Yeah.
Where if nothing else good happened, came from that administration, the only good thing is that it happened. We can learn from it.
Yeah.
And hopefully never, ever, ever fucking deal with that
I know.
again. But it's also, it shines so much light on all of these social issues that were just swept underneath the rug, like women's rights, the incarceration, just like social issues like that got brought into light and now can be talked about.
Yes.
Because, and like, I think you and I, we always say like politics were calm before, but I think it's just because no one wanted to talk about the
hard
crazy
things.
stuff.
Yeah,
and
right.
now that they finally are, we have people in
That's
power
what I'm
that
saying.
are willing
like,
to do
things
it.
are almost a little bit more. Everything is controversial now, and while that is annoying in so many ways, because we can sit there and say like, oh, everything has become political. No, it already was.
It was.
Now we're just actually having the conversations we should have been back then.
Talking
and,
about race, racism was never talked about.
Ever. Like, it was so, and it was, and we were such the like society to say like, oh, we don't see color. You know how problematic that is? We need to see it. We need to see it and acknowledge everything that comes with that.
We're gonna have to do a whole thing. Yeah, we could go, but yeah, we'll stick to politics. But I think we talked about like the past, kind of what do you hope to see in the future? As like, I love to ask that question now because like you said, I'm trying to be more optimistic,
Me
but
too.
it's just like the fear of it. So like, yes, like what do you?
Well, okay. And so sure. Like I said a million times already, just on this one episode, this isn't my ideal situation either. And I understand why people aren't like fully satisfied. But I am seeing this as the first step into becoming like so much more progressive. And I'm hoping that I see that actually come to fruition. Like, I really hope that is the case, because to me, I want to see so many more women and people of color and minorities in politics. And I just know that alone will create such sweeping change. Like, it just will, because our issues will be brought front and center and will be discussed and will be voted on and will matter. And
because like your issues that you deal with as a woman, I will never have to deal with as a man. Like, there's so many different things where if you're not aware of it.
And that's the thing. It comes down to just straight up a lack of awareness. It does.
Yes.
Because we're not educated to care about those things, because it doesn't affect you. And to a certain extent, we said that earlier, like, this is the first presidency where I actually saw my own rights being stripped away. And as much as I was mad at, you know, all of the other times that I have seen other people suffer, this was the first time where I was like, damn, this really is straight up affecting me. Like, I have to go and do something. Like, I have to. This is the most politically involved I've ever been. This is the first
you
time.
and I were both like on our Instagrams, on social media. We were
Everywhere.
the most vocal.
And I like, this is the first time I even remotely considered doing things like phone banking for like trying to get people out to vote, and also participating in just
voting.
Like,
I remember I tried
and
registering to like help work at voting polls, but I was too late. But it was just like stuff.
Like, I just need to get involved now.
Yes.
And like, that's so cool. And I think more and more people care about that kind of a thing too. I hope. Yeah.
That's my thing that I really do hope, because honestly, and I will be 100, me like not having any expectations, I really don't think a lot will change. Like, I don't think a lot will change in these 4 years, but what I hope.
It is so slow.
That people start talking about it more.
Me too.
People are aware of it. And then, like you said, educate themselves more, because I feel like if you're hearing different sides and you're hearing different people's opinions, it hopefully will spark something in your brain to be like, okay, let me learn a little bit more.
Yes.
And then go from there.
Yeah.
Just because I hope just like talking about these things make it so much easier that hopefully it just becomes normal, because it wasn't.
And that's the thing. Even just with like older generations, like I see there is kind of this taboo to even talking about politics in general. That should not be the case. These are conversations we should be having all the time.
Do you think that it got harder or easier? Because I almost think it got harder. Because it got such a, and I will say, because for my eyes, I was very Democrat versus Republican. It really wasn't until towards the end of the election where it was like, you can be a Republican and not support Trump versus like Trumpism.
Or you can just be a fucking piece
because
of shit.
There were so many times where it was just like, I just shut down, because it was like, I don't want to talk, especially you and I, we got just to a brick where we can't talk about it anymore.
No, I know. Well, okay. I think a couple things happened, because in a way I think it got harder to talk about, but I also think, if anything, it got harder to talk about mostly for Trump supporters, because you were so ostracized. Like, I think in general, politics almost got easier to talk about if you were on, in my opinion, the right side.
Exactly. It got easier to talk about in your own party.
Yes.
But crossing party lines was
like
very
literally
difficult,
impossible.
which I do think to make, because I agree, it's so divided right now with like Trump supporters and not, where it's just like, but see, that's where it's like, I wanted to do that with like Republicans, be like, where is your heads at? But then they kind of split from that. But now it's really like, if you're a diehard Trump fan, there's little to nothing I think that you could say.
You are so far off the edge, yeah.
To like do it. So that's where I think it's just like Democrats and Republicans need to come together.
See, and that's okay. That's what I like though about And it feels so refreshing to have this be back in politics again. The second that Biden took that motherfucking stage, that man was sitting there talking about uniting us. He was talking about getting both parties together, meeting in the middle. You know, all of us are Americans. And even though, you know, fuck America, whatever. But yes, it feels so good to hear that stuff being said again, because for 4 years we had someone who was just preaching division left and right. And he wanted that so badly. And now we finally have someone sitting there and saying, like, we have to come together.
I was listening to Biden's first, it was either his like first, one of his first like national just announcements or whatnot. And he was just talking about like, oh, it was his first like COVID task force like talk. Then he was introducing everyone. He literally, the words that he just said is, we will be 100% transparent with you. We'll admit when we were wrong. That was the biggest thing with this.
Yes.
The moment that, if Trump would have came out and said, I was wrong, we can fix this. But instead, if he was called out, anyone in his administration, his supporters, would turn it an attack. Well,
yes.
What the Democrats said, that we're not talking about that. We can talk about that. And like I said, we need to still, as a party, hold them accountable, because
Yes.
no one in the Trump culture ever did.
No.
Because it was always, you're attacking me. Well, what about them? What about
There was
them?
no accountability, and that's why, like, yes, exactly. That's why Biden, he's not my hero.
No.
I still have to hold him and his entire group of people accountable, but that's what we're gonna do.
That's politics.
That's
Not
politics.
everyone's going to be right. Not everyone's going to be wrong. But in Donald Trump's eyes, he was 100% right the whole time. And
he couldn't make a mistake, dude. You made so many mistakes. Just say, hey, we did a big fuck up just now. Let's fix it. Instead, it was defensive mechanism left and right.
But see, that's why I think he has such a... Look at the House of Representatives. I mean, there's like over 100 elected people in the House of Representatives. I think it was like more than half of the Republicans are still diehard Trump supporters. And that's where I think it's scary, because they're still having meetings. Like we said, one, the conspiracy, Marjorie Greene, we were just talking about this earlier, how she came out...
Really scary.
A QAnon conspiracy theorist then now denounces...
First openly...
Oh my God, I know.
Which is just really scary. That's so scary. We can't have people like that governing the country. We can't have people like
for
that.
conspiracy theories in that control. And it's like not even a thing that she's part of. The biggest thing was like, yeah, she was elected. You can't do anything. She was running unopposed. It's a small town in Georgia.
Yep.
Obviously, she has that. She now denounced the Parkland shooting,
Yep.
where there's videos of her
2
harassing
victims.
students who survived
Yeah.
shootings, going up to them and saying, I have a gun.
Yes.
Saying that the Vegas shooting that 9/11 was a hoax. In what world
I know.
is it okay to go to a survivor of a high school shooting? You're
One of the most traumatic events maybe ever.
and go up to him and say, I have a gun.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I know.
And how are you still? And that's like, I get how she's still in office, because you have to get 75% of the House to eject her.
But that's where we have so many issues. That's where our political system fails us. This woman should be removed.
But she just got appointed to a cabinet position in the House. And the fact that the House, so who did it is the majority leader of their party, which is Kevin McCarthy. He hasn't even come out and said anything about it.
I know.
It's like, in that aspect, it's like you're still going around with it. And
and that's
Trump.
the thing, because sure, whatever, you can't remove this woman because of all of these stupid fucking rules, these ancient rules. At least the rest of you could come out and say, we openly disagree with
Denounce
everything
it.
she's saying, but you're not doing that.
But it's a fear of just not being
Yes.
reelected. And that's
Yep.
the whole issue of just like,
Politics in general.
There's this one representative from Illinois, Adam Kingsinger, and he's flat out said, I don't care if I'm reelected. We need to do what's best for the party. And
every politician should have that.
he'll probably get but
because of that, that's the kind of energy we want to reelect. Hello.
And what scares me is, like I said, the Senate and the House, every 2 years is a new election.
Mm-hmm.
We have the slimmest majority in both.
I know.
So my going back to just like to Biden's, what he's gonna do is he's so like this 1.9 package. He's like, it needs to be bipartisan. It needs to we need Republican supporters. They need, I think, like 10 to 15 Republican senators when only 5 have come out to oppose it. But they can, because they have the majority in the House, the Senate, and the White House, they can literally just push it through reconciliation where they don't need the majority.
I know.
But he's just still doing the unity thing. So it comes to a point of like, at what point do you say fuck it and just do it? Because that's what you promised. That's your agenda. Regardless of if you want unity, they were not about unity before.
Well, okay, and I think that is the main thing, and that's I think one of the main things we need to do with the next 4 years in holding this administration accountable. Because if roles were reversed, if nothing we would ever have said would be even considered.
If this was this time last, we can even use the Supreme Court as an example.
Yeah.
The fact that they pushed Amy Coney Barrett to be the Supreme Court after the hypocrisy of the Obama thing with it was 4 weeks?
Yes.
4 or 5 weeks?
More, yeah.
Before the election when
Yes.
when Obama wasn't like 3 or 6 months that he was still in office, that they pushed that hearing within a week. But now Mitch McConnell doesn't think that they can push the impeachment hearing. That is and that's where it's like
you can see all of the ways that this is so faulty.
I can see both sides because I get where it's just like if we keep going back and forth of whoever's in the majority, we're just going to push through it. So I get where it's like to build that, but for right now, when you have that majority, do what you can to do, and then bills going forward, then do it. Republicans would do it in a heartbeat.
Yes, they wouldn't even think twice.
Mitch McConnell was still on his high horse until the Georgia runoff elections, where he thought he was going to be in the majority.
Yeah,
but it's just so shocking to me of just like, and I mean, I do think after this week, we're going to see a lot more just.
Oh yeah.
We're just going to do our agenda. So I hope so. That's me being hopeful.
Same. Yeah.
But they have a lot of work to do.
I know.
And I just hope that they can do.
And that's the thing. I think you and I are on the same page. I'm not counting my chickens yet. We have to do everything necessary. We have to continue, and on a state level and on a
federal
national,
level,
all of it. Like we have to continue holding everyone accountable. We have to continue making sure that our voices are heard because a vote isn't all that matters. You have to continue pushing these people to do what they said they were going to do.
Exactly. And if you don't like it, vote them out.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy to me, just like going back of just like how affected. It's not just the Democrats that are affected by this pandemic. It's Republicans and Democrats that's where my disconnect is. But it's really just like you said, education
and the messaging,
learning, the messaging, what resources you have available. Yep. And whatnot. Like some people don't have internet. Some people don't have phones. Some people can't go on the internet and research. So if they go to a rally,
some people have been brainwashed by QAnon.
Honestly. So.
Yeah. I
mean, we can only hope.
I know.
We can only hope.
And that's what we're doing. We're being optimists. Isn't that sweet?
That's we might have to change this to optimistic as best.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's a thing. Like, okay. In general life terms, I complain about everything. Actually, even in politics, yes, I complain so much. But this is the one thing, like this has been such a hammer down on my fucking head for 4 years that I can't stand another second of feeling so hopeless. I need to latch on to something hopeful.
Of just being embarrassed of and the thing, and I will maybe even say this too, if Trump held himself to a higher standard and just
I didn't want him elected, but he could have been a way better president than he was.
If he just did it differently of just the way that he spoke was not a way of just...
All of the people that he mocked and insulted, it's just like, this is not even a stand-up citizen, much less a president.
And I get the whole, in every job or any politics, your past is going to haunt you, and I get that. But the shit that he did while he was... mocked the special needs... that video I watched, and it just... In what world did that not denounce every single person?
Yeah.
That's just absolutely...
That should have been it. Yeah, I know. But he's gone.
He's gone. We can at least have 4 years of him not in office.
Yeah.
We can have 2 years of hopefully getting our agenda done.
I know.
And just hopefully, just hope. But...
And I do think that, maybe another good thing that came out of us is more political awareness and more political involvement beyond just the initial election.
And I do think the younger generation will help.
Yes, and I plan on staying involved and aware and paying attention to the news way more than I ever have because I want... I'm going to be writing emails, sending letters, making calls, doing whatever the fuck it takes because I care so much more about this now because I know that what I say does matter. And I think for so long, we were all kind of just under the impression we vote. And then after that, they kind of just do whatever they want.
And I don't know if for me, it was like, I never... Even though obviously it's like the government dictates your life, but you don't. If you're not working in the government, around the government, or a government paying, or what it's really in the back of your head.
It is, which to a certain extent is how it should be, because that they shouldn't have that much control over your life.
And we should just live in a world where it's like we elect these people to do better for us, where we don't have to worry.
Where we don't have to second guess whatever the fuck it is that their intentions are.
So I hope. I mean, I feel like we talked a lot.
Yes, I think so
I think we
too.
hit the main things.
Me
and
too.
I think
I'm feeling solid.
I feel
I needed
better.
to have this
I needed to
conversation,
have this
actually.
because I stopped talking about it because
Yeah.
it's just like I get so worked up.
Me too.
Where it's just
I actually needed to stop. For a little while there,
I
I
needed
stopped
to
sharing
stop.
things on social. I was just like, I need a break. I need to not think about this.
But that's
for a little
why
bit.
I catch myself now. I did it during the pod where I stopped my train of thought because I could go.
Yes.
Because
Yep.
it's.
I know.
But yeah, so this was good.
It was good. I feel good.
I think we hit everything.
Yeah, me too. And I will say, you know what, you guys, like, I don't know, maybe this will get you riled up, maybe it'll get you inspired, whatever it is. But like, if anything, I want this, like, we are two political novices straight up. Like, we don't know that much.
And I think that's this is, I think, a good place to end this is like, we're not saying that we know everything. These are just our opinions of just what our experiences.
Yeah.
And so we're not saying we're always open to learning. We're both sides, like
Yes.
everything. Where
And if anything, I want this to be something where like this kind of a conversation can happen more. You don't feel like you have to know that much about politics to be able to start talking about it
it's
because that's
scary.
how you learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's an issue of you don't want to sound stupid. You want to be able,
Totally.
but that's why I didn't talk about it because I didn't until I was knowledgeable about
Yeah.
it. So hopefully this
And you
sparks.
can educate yourself.
Yes.
There are a lot of resources and
Yes.
even ones that dumb it down for you a little bit, which is like what I needed.
And hey, if you're a Trump supporter and you want to learn more, reach out to us.
Yes.
We will do our best. But like
We
we
will.
said, we're not going to go around in circles and get into arguments. It's like one and done.
Yes.
But like, yeah, it's like I definitely hope to educate more people
Yeah.
versus like attack and criticize because I don't think that ultimately helps in to an extent.
So a really good takeaway from this, and this is something that I actually learned from this. I went to a keynote speech by this
Oh.
guy. His big message was instead of whenever you're in kind of like a contentious conversation, whether it's politics, just a regular argument, interpersonal, whatever it is, instead of like defending and explaining, you should try to acknowledge and question, aka
Yes.
acknowledge their feelings, validate whatever it is that they're saying or thinking or feeling, and then ask them some questions to get down to the bottom of it, because that's how you actually touch someone.
I love that you say that because I think I don't remember, it was a class that I took to learn how to talk, and it's like you have to actively listen. You have to say, I hear what you say.
Yes.
I hear that, because if you just get into an argument with someone of just like, you're not acknowledging, but the moment that and even if people
just
say
wanna
that to
feel
me,
heard.
you want to feel heard and you want to feel that your thoughts are acknowledged, which everyone's thoughts are and feelings should be acknowledged.
Yeah,
and
worthy of that.
Worthy.
Totally.
But then you, like you said, why? Ask why,
Yes.
ask questions, because the more that you ask, then that gets you thinking. You're like, wait, why do I think like
Yeah.
that? Why am
and
I
a
doing
lot of
that
the time
bad?
you can break them down and get to the bottom.
100%. So if you, yes.
Yeah.
Ask why.
So don't defend and explain. Acknowledge and question.
I will say, you can defend and explain if they're still not listening to you.
Exactly.
Take the one time, listen and explain, be cool, calm, and collected.
Yep.
And then if they're still coming with you with the bullshit,
Defend and
defend, yell,
explain.
block, whatever, then I'm right with you. I'm all for the arguments and whatnot, but I think you should start.
Yeah. You have to give them a chance. And if they don't take the chance, fucking school their ass.
Exactly. I needed this.
Me
I
too.
loved.
It feels good. It's a release.
Feels good.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you guys for listening. Oh my God. Did we teach you something?
Hopefully.
A little something.
And social issues next time.
Yeah. We're going to be back for this is going to be a new series. I do.
could, honestly.
We could.
So
The people would
fuck
love
you,
it.
Zoe.
Well, thank you guys for listening, and we will be back again next week. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.